In this video, we will discuss some very fundamentally important topics called as digest cycles, watchers, apply, and the performance implication of these things on Angular. Now, one of the basic questions which would have come into your mind is that basically when we go and update this model, if you remember the code, right? This customer name text box here is nothing but this ng model, what you see, and these values here, shiv, what you are seeing here is nothing but the expression. So when I actually go and type here, right, how it is going and updating this expression. So as a curious developer, one of the things which would have come to your mind is that how is the model going and updating the expression like a abracadabra, right? So this magic of updation between the model and the expression is done by something called as the digest cycle. You can think about that digest cycle is a loop which actually runs and updates the model and expression. But now the next question which comes to our mind is that when does this digest cycle run and how does this digest cycle know that which expressions to update? So the first thing, digest cycle does not run continuously at the back end. It runs when there is some kind of an event that is sent from Angular. Means, for example, in this case, on this model customer name, when I go and type something, it's probably sends an on change event, right? A change event. And this change event actually goes and says the digest cycle to kick off. Now what the digest cycle does, the digest cycle says, okay, which model has changed? Customer name. Okay, for this model, let us try to first understand, what are the watchers what are connected? What are these watchers? These watchers are nothing but, they are the things, by which you can know which expressions to update. So these watchers are, the pointers which will tell you that, okay, go and update this expression because this expression is connected with this model. So basically the way this whole thing works, there is some kind of an event which is sent from the model like ng-click or change event. This change event goes and starts the digest cycle. The digest cycle goes through all the watchers which are connected with that model, and he goes to every watchers and then he goes and updates the corresponding expression or the corresponding model, whatever is connected with the watcher. Also, let me just elaborate at the method level, what kind of methods are called when these things happen. So basically, first thing, when there is a change event in the model or some kind of an event is sent, $.apply method actually is first called. So this $.apply method is the thing which will actually signal out Angular saying, now start the digest cycle. And after that, the digest cycle starts, and the digest cycle starts with a loop of $.digest. So basically $.apply is the actual Angular method which initiates the digest cycle, and $.digest is that loop which actually runs and evaluates all the watchers. But now this is not the end of the story. The digest loop or the digest cycle is a bit complex. Let me make a statement here. The digest cycle does not run only once, it can run multiple times. Or let me make a statement here saying that the digest cycle does not run only once, but it at least runs twice. It can run twice or it can run a lot of times, right? But minimum twice it runs. So the next question which will come to your mind is that why does it run twice? Now think about a scenario that you have a watcher, and that watcher goes and updates an expression, and that expression for some reason goes and updates a model, and that model goes and updates a watcher again, and that watcher again goes and updates an expression. So so that means the digest cycle has to run multiple times to ensure that in case if some other expression is getting updated, is it going and changing some other model? So that's the only reason why the digest cycle runs twice, to ensure that everything is right and your output, what you see on the screen, is right. So the digest cycle minimum runs twice, and this is termed as dirty checking, to ensure that in case in the first digest cycle, if there are some leftovers, right, to confirm that, he runs once again. So remember, the digest cycle can minimum run 2 times and maximum it can run depending on what kind of updates are happening in your Angular DOM. So let us try to fully summarize, what we have learned till now, because whatever we have learned till now, we have learned them in bits and pieces. So the first thing is, this complete life cycle of updation of Angular is divided into 6 steps. So I'm trying to actually summarize over here what we have learned. So first thing is, the model gets changed and there is an event which is sent from the model. This event can be ng-click, it can be change event, whatever it is. But that event actually says that, okay, now we have to kick off the digest cycle. And the kicking off the digest cycle is done by something called as the $.apply method. So the $.apply method actually goes and calls the $.digest method internally, right? So both of these methods, they get called, and after that, the digest cycle gets initiated. So the fourth step is the digest cycle gets initiated. The digest cycle starts. He starts evaluating all the watchers and the corresponding expression which are connected with the model. And this evaluation at least happens twice, or I will say it happens until the dirty checking happens. So basically, this digest cycle or the digest loop runs multiple times until all the watchers are evaluated, and then after that it goes and updates the DOM. So the DOM updation happens. That is the fifth step. And after that, once the DOM has been updated, then you see the updated data on the browser. And just one more point, I would like to emphasize here about the digest cycle. The digest cycle does not run within a scope. So when any event happens, he does not go and just track those models and watchers. He actually starts looping from the root scope. If you remember, in the previous part of the video, I talked about root scope. So it actually travels from the root scope, goes through every scope and every scope's watchers, and then updates their expressions. So it travels down, and for dirty checking, again it travels from the root scope. So we need to understand that this complete digest cycle loop is quite big. It travels the full Angular document object model. So in short, there are 6 important steps, which runs internally. Now, one of the things which can come to your mind is that, why are we discussing about this whole life cycle and digest cycle? Because it is running automatically, it is nice, it is minimizing our development effort. Remember one thing, in life, when you get something very easily and automatic, there are problems also associated with it. In this whole life cycle, if you concentrate on the 4th step specifically, the 4th step, that 4th step is a bit stressful, isn't it? It is going to go and run multiple times. It's going to evaluate multiple watchers. Think about a screen, where you have 100 fields. So 100 fields, I don't know, like you can have, must be 200 watchers in that, right? So it can definitely have a lot of performance implication. So we need to see that at least we should be able to measure, that what is the time taken to run that loop, right? That means the digest loop. And second, how many watchers we have. So in other words, in order to understand the performance implication of the 4th step, we should be able to measure 2 things. One is, how much time is the digest cycle running, and how many watchers are there in our project, right? And then what kind of things we can do to improve performance. So let us go ahead and let us see that how we can measure these 2 things and then take corrective actions. So let us see in the next steps how we can measure the digest cycle time, and second, how we can measure the number of watchers. So let me demonstrate how we can go and measure the digest cycle and the number of watchers, right? So what I'm going to do is, before I start the demonstration, if you remember, this is the same project I'm moving ahead with. You can see that we already had a customer name field and we had a customer code field. Let me go and add one more field here called as the sales date. So the sales date is nothing but the date and time, when this sales was made. So I'm going to go and add one more field here, which will help me to track the date and time, when this sales was done. Now, this field, this sales date and time, is not something which the end user will put. It will actually come automatically from the system. So in other words, I'm going to go and create the object of I'm going to go and create the date object of JavaScript, and over here I will say dt dot to local date string, right? So basically just take, or maybe I can just say because we need the time as well, right? So not just the date, so to date string. Okay, and this sales date and time I will display somewhere downside. So over here I'm going to go and just display the date and time of sales, but this field is not a editable field. This field will come automatically from the system. So date and time of sales, and over here I will just put this expression which is non-editable, right? Great. And let me just go and run this. Let me check if this is working. Control F5. So there you can see my program running, and it is displaying me the date. It is not displaying me the time, but that is fine. We'll fix that later on. But you can see that it is actually displaying me the date here, which is non-editable. In other words, it comes from the system, and these other things are editable. And also I would like to go and display this sales time down below. So must be over here. I would like to also go and display the sales time in the preview, right? So down in the preview I would like to go and display the sales time as well. Good. So you can see that top is my data entry screen and below is my preview, right? And this thing is non-editable. You can see that there is something called as a counter. This counter is coming from that root scope. We can remove this. We don't need it anymore. It was just to make you explain how root scope works. We can just clean this, right? For sharing global data, there are better ways of doing it. We'll talk about it. But at this moment I don't need the root scope, so just I will refresh it and everything good, right? So we have our program here, wherein we have the customer name, wherein we have the customer code, and wherein we also have the date, when the sales was made. Now let us go and see that how many vouchers are created internally and what is the digest cycle time to display this record. So again, to see the number of vouchers and the digest cycle, we are going to go and use our Batrang tool, which we discussed in the previous part of the video. So let us press F12 and let us click on AngularJS here. And remember, to enable Batrang tool, you have to go and click on this enable checkbox. So I'm going to go and click on this enable checkbox and watch this thing over here, something called as performance, right? So this is that thing, which will actually help you to see the number of vouchers and the total time spent on digesting. So you can see here, let me quickly go and enable this. So you can see something over here. It says that, okay, there are these many vouchers and this is the total watch time. So you can see here that there we have something called as a voucher text. Then we have the total watch time and the number of vouchers on that voucher text. At this moment, if you see, you are not seeing a lot of things over here because probably everything has ran and it is settled. So let us go ahead and first fire a change event. Remember, I said the time you go and change something, an event gets fired and the digest cycle runs, right? So I'm going to go and just type here test and look at this at the back. Wow. You can see that it has popped up hordes of things over here. And let us try to understand it. So first thing is, you can see these curly brackets over here, which actually specifies our expression. So we can, if you remember, we had the following expression, right? We had sales date and time, we had customer name, we had customer code. So you can see for each one of these expressions, he has vouchers here. So you can see for sales date and time, he has one voucher. So this sales date and time, this thing over here has one voucher. And again, we have displayed the sales date and time down, right? You can see there is one more voucher for that. So 3 vouchers down here to display sales date and time, customer name and customer code, and one more sales date and time for the top one. He has one more voucher. So you can see the voucher text and the number of vouchers here. The next thing what you can see over here is the NG model watch. This NG model watch is nothing but the vouchers, which are actually concerned with the model. So at this moment we have 2 models here. For each one of these 2 models, you can see that there are 2 vouchers here. Now a word of caution. At this moment, what you are seeing on the screen is a very, very idle situation. You can see over here, if you see, the number of vouchers here exactly match my number of expressions and models here. For example, at this moment I have this top one, sales date and time. This is actually this one, right? The first one, it has one watcher. Then we have this ng model, which is for customer name and customer code. For that you can see this ng model watch, which has two watchers, and for the remaining three, again there are three watchers here down below. So basically this is a very, very ideal situation where the number of watchers match the number of things what you have on your UI, right? But it is not always like that. For example, the number of watchers can increase and decrease. So do not try to think that they will map one to one. For example, now look at this. I am now trying to go and type on the customer name, and you can suddenly see that customer name has 3 watchers, and then ng model has 4 watchers, so you can see that suddenly things have increased over here. So as a word of caution, I will say that do not think that the number of watchers exactly match the expressions and the properties. Yes, but they give you a value at least saying that these many watchers are there. So number of watchers will increase and decrease, and the digest cycle loop can also increase and decrease, right? So that is completely dependent at that time, how the dirty checking is happening, etc. So that is the first thing. Now again, one more thing which I would like to talk here is basically, these watchers don't fire only on the change event. Means, it does not fire only on the model, but even, when I do like things like ng click over here, you can see now I'm doing ng click over here, then also these watchers fire. So remember, the watchers and the digest cycle, they get activated time when some event happens like ng click or model change, etc. So in other words, at this moment we are seeing two types of watchers here. One is the expression watcher, which you see in the curly brackets, and one is the watcher which are watching your model, which is coming from that ng model. So at this moment we have two types of watchers, one which is listening to the ng model and one which is listening to the expression. The watchers which are listening to the expressions are seen like this in the watcher text. The watchers which are listened by the ng model is seen by ng model watch. And the last thing which I said, very important, do not think that the number of watchers what you see here will be equal to the number of elements. It is when you start typing, when you start executing, these watchers can increase and decrease, as well as the digest loop can increase and decrease. So now that we understand that the more the number of watchers, the more bad it is. The more time the digest cycle runs, the more bad it is. So how do we go and improve this whole thing, right? So first thing is, remove unnecessary expressions. For example, you can see in our screen here, we are already displaying the sales date and time down below, and again we are displaying at the top. So must be I don't need this, right? The end user can see the sales date and time below, right? So first thing is, go and try to remove unnecessary expression. For example, if you see here, I've removed one expression, and let us go and reload the screen. So I'm going to go and reload the screen here quickly, and you can see that now that one watcher has gone off, right? So if you see at this moment, we are just seeing, if you watch here, at this moment we are just seeing 3 expressions, right? Previously we were seeing 4 expressions. So first thing is, remove unnecessary expressions which are used in your application. But now just reducing the number of expression is not the way out, because a lot of times really people want to see the expression, right? End users are a bit freaky, they will say, okay, show me here also and show me here also. So sometimes, it is not really possible to just reduce the number of expression, right? The other thing what you can watch is, you can watch for data which is to be displayed only one time. In other words, they don't really need updation. For example, look at this, look at the date and time, the date here, right? This date comes once, and after that we do not want it to be watched. So this is like something like one time. So one time it comes, at that time Angular can watch it, but later on I don't wish that this should be watched, because this never changes. I don't have a text box for it, right? It is all internally generated. So this sales date and time over here is actually just one time. So once it's loaded, once the value is set over here, after that, we don't expect any kind of changes in sales date and time. So if we can make this watcher as one time, if we can make this as a one-time binding, then definitely, again, our number of watches can reduce. So to make it one time, we need to use the double colon here. You can see before the expression, I've just typed double colon. So with this, if you see now, the output does not change, right? But if you go and see here, you can see now we have two expressions which are connected, right? One which is coming from ng model watch, and watch this, there is one more new type of watcher here called as one time, and this one time watcher will actually go off the time I start typing. So this is only the first time, when the application was loaded, but when I start typing, you can see the one time watch has gone off, right? So you can see now we only have two watchers for expression, and one, this is for the model. So again, watch for data, which is one time. So if you have one time data, don't forget to put this double colon here, and that will again reduce the number of watchers. So fields which are read only, fields which are one time, you can use this double colon. Again, one more very interesting thing here is at this moment, whatever I'm seeing in the Batrang tool is seen, because I'm using the full-blown Angular.js. In case I'm using the mean.js, let us say I go and I drag and drop the mean.js, then you will see there is a slight change in the way Batrang tool displays data. So for example, now let us say I go and I use the mean.js, you can see suddenly that user-friendly name ng model has gone off, and you can see directly the function names. So why it is seen? Because when we say mean.js, it is it is a JS file which is actually contrasted, or I will say the comments are removed, everything is removed, right? So basically it is a compressed file, isn't it? So in compressed file, you do not put the function names, it is just anonymous functions. So that's why you are directly seeing the code here. So one very important point to remember, whenever you are debugging with the Batrang tool, please ensure that you are using your full-blown Angular.js and not the mean.js, so that you can get user-friendly names over here, by which you can understand things. So you can see over here now, this is actually this function a returns d of a is nothing but that one-time binding. The top one is the ng model, and below is the expression. So if I type here, you can see that that one time has gone off, right? So basically, if in case you are looking at the Batrang tool when you're using the Angular mean.js, then expect such kind of a display. Okay, and something is running before my eyes here, and I would like to discuss, what is that running before my eyes. Okay, so you can see here this function here. Can you see? Look at the way the code is. It says that if some value is not equal to p.model.value and equal to value, some kind of a comparison it is doing with values, right? So basically, very important point this is, I would suggest you, in case you have the bandwidth, which I have actually done myself, please try to go and debug the Angular.js file. If you ever go and try to debug Angular.js file, you will get a lot of more knowledge. But let me quickly talk about this important point here. When you actually go and change the model, so for example, when I go here and I change this to like this, X, let us say, right? The first thing what Angular does is, before even it fires the digest cycle, it compares this value with the old value. If the old value and the new value are same, it does not trigger the digest cycle. Interesting, right? For example, look at here, look at the screen now. You can see there are 3 watchers, there are 4 watchers down below, 0.011 and 0.0015, right? Now you can see here on the customer name, if I just go and again type X, nothing has changed here. Look at it. Again, if I go and type X, nothing changes. But the time I go and say XX, it changes. Look at that. So if I type X, it changes. But if I just keep the same value, look at this, I'm keeping the same value, you can see the digest cycle does not fire. So remember that this code over here, which is now seen thanks to that Angular mean.js, it says that, if the value is the same as the old value, then don't trigger the $.apply. So again, just quickly, that diagram we had, that full-blown diagram, I'm going and adding one more point here. That first thing is, yes, the event fires, but before calling $.apply, there is a comparison made saying that is this current value equal to the old value. So if the current value is equal to the old value, right, then don't do anything, or else go and call $.apply and fire your full life cycle. So this is again a very important point which I want to stress here. Now, till now, you have been seeing watchers which is created by the system, right? Means these are system watchers, right? But sometimes you'd like to go and add your own custom watcher. For example, let us say, let me go and create one more property here called as customer amount. So this just tells you that what is the total sales amount. So total sales amount, what the customer has bought. So by default, I'll just say 100. Now you want to do something like this. You want to go and give the user to go and put the customer amount, and depending on what amount he has put, you want to go and display a red color or a green color. For example, let us say if he's buying more than 1000, you want to show a green color. If he's buying less than 1000, you want to show a red color. So let me go and create a property here called as customer amount color, right? So this color value actually changes to red or blue or whatever, depending on the amount. So if it goes above 1000, you want to show, let us say, a blue color. If it goes a green color, let us say if it goes below 1000, you want to show a blue color, or by default it is a red color, right? So let me go here and give the ability to the end user to go and type the customer amount. So you can see here I'm binding the customer amount field. So customer amount, right? So customer amount property is now binded. So what we can do here is we can go and put a watch on this customer amount. So we can go here and say $scope dot $watch. So what do you want to watch? I want to watch this customer amount. So when this customer amount changes, I would like to go and do something. So now I can go and say here comma function, right? So here I can say if. So if this amount is greater than 1000, then show some color, or else show some other color, right? So over here now I can say, so if it is above 1000, then show a green color, or else go and show a blue color, right? Like this. There it is. Great. So you can see now this is my custom watch code here which I have written, right? And this has to be semicolon, right? And this customer amount color here, let us go and put it in this text box here. So let us go here and let us say style. So I'll say here style background color colon is this, right? So basically, as soon as I type the amount, I expect this color to get updated, and this updation will actually go and change my background color of my customer amount, right? So let us go and run this. So I'm going to go and do a control F5. So there it is. So if I go above 1000, it is green. If I go below, it is blue, right? So the logic is working. But now let us quickly go and see the Batrang tool. Let us see that what do we see there, right? So F12, let's go to AngularJS. Let's enable the Batrang tool, and let me just go and type here something, because yes. So you can see now, till now you were seeing ng model watch. Yes, that is already there. You were seeing the expressions that is already there, but you can see now extra one more voucher here called as customer amount, and this is nothing but this guy, right? So this guy is actually this thing. Okay, so when this thing is changing, so if you go and type something in the amount, you will see that this value is getting updated. Okay, so that is that extra voucher what has come in. So this is your custom voucher. So this is your custom voucher. These are ready-made vouchers. These are ready-made vouchers. So ng model is a ready-made watch, the expressions are ready-made watch, and this one is your voucher. So vouchers which are custom, you will find normally they do not start with the word ng, and they normally are without the curly brackets, right? So that brings us to the end of this 30 minutes video, and this was a very interesting video because I feel that this video stands as a base for you, when you talk about internals of Angular. And a lot of people, they complain about that Angular is slow. Why? Because they do not understand how the digest cycle works. So I hope that this video has clarified your concept about digest cycle. It has clarified your concept about vouchers. It has clarified how you can go and improve the digest cycle and bring down the number of vouchers by using one-time binding. Great, and that brings us to the end of this 30 minutes video, and the next video is on services and factory, and I personally feel that video would be my best video till now on Angular, right? So go ahead and continue this series, and in case you are liking this series, do let me know by putting your comments on facebook.com/questpond. You can tell me that what you think about this series and on which lab you are on. So next lab is on services and factory. So keep working hard and let us see that how we can learn Angular in a better way. Thank you so much.